Well, welcome back, everybody. For those of you who've been joining us, or this is your first time joining us, we talk about the nitty-gritty side of aircraft maintenance. We also like to impart a little bit of our humor, some of our wisdom, and the hopes of all of this is to give you that split seconds relief to prevent a mishap and to hopefully give you some insight to not make the same mistakes as majority of us have in our careers.
Yeah. Now, I know we talk about the nitty gritty side of aircraft maintenance, but we do spend an awful lot of time talking about the corporate and executive side of things too.
Yes.
Just for those, you might say, well, then you're not true to aircraft maintenance. Well, maybe, but I think for most of us, you can impart a lot of that stuff in your day-to-day operations, or if you're looking to grow within your organization, you're going to have to learn about most of that stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And with that said, there's a lot of stuff that majority of the average aircraft mechanic tends to avoid, and that's the office politics, right? We've said it ourselves. We're guilty of it of ourselves for the longest time. We'd say like, nah, that's just all office politics bullshit. I don't want to be a part of it. I
actively avoid that. I stay away from it.
Right. And, I just want to get in, do my job, and get the heck out, right? Earn my check and just keep on moving, keep on trucking.
But as Six and I were talking on offline, whether you realize it or not, you are playing the corporate chess game. By you saying I don't actively get involved or I avoid that means you're a pawn in the game.
Yes.
You're not making the power moves for your own to better yourself, right? To get your own checkmate. You're the pawn that's going to be wasted while somebody else goes for the killing move.
Right. And as sad as that is, we're not knocking that some people just like the situation they're in. They like the awareness of it. They like the comfortability, flexibility, whatever, what have you. If that's your due, by all means, it's okay to want to stay there. You just have to be aware that this is how everyone else sees you. Like,
well, and okay, you're happy where you're at, right? You're good with being in the hangar, on the line, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're still part of the chess game. But if you don't play the game, you might say, "Well, I don't plan on moving up into management or into corporate or whatever, so there's no reason for me to play." Well, no, I mean the chess game goes down even at that level. You could say, if I don't play the game, make a power move. Okay, well, hey guys, I know we've been working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 3 months, but due to our continued poor planning, you get to do that for another 3 months.
Yes.
But if you got to play the game and checkmate that shit and get you and your crew make the move to get you guys off that schedule in a better medium, or hey, our support equipment's lacking. We need this. Play that chess game, man. Get that funding allotted so you can improve that it's necessary for them to buy that equipment for you so you can be more efficient and effective at your job.
Yes. And I think we've inherently said this as we're going along. Like sometimes the chess game is just wording something different or letting something fail to a certain acceptable degree so that people start listening or people start realizing what's going on. Sometimes, you just have to have someone else make the address. It's very basic. It's very petty, but that's very much a part of the chess game, as we were saying. That's very much part of the office politics, as we were saying. And despite the negative connotations of it all, it's not all inherently evil. It's not just like I'm here to treat people as pawns and step my personal way up the ladder and reach the top of the pyramid. It's not necessarily like that. Some people treat it that way, yes, but understanding how people and environments and the situations you're in revolve around each other, that all plays its own little factor in how things move around and how you're able to address certain things. Because Example is us as aircraft mechanics. We're very brash. We're very abrasive. We can cuss a lot, and for us, that's a language in of itself. It's very easy to understand how someone is acting, feeling, or needs to address just based off the gruff of their face or the inflection in their voice. We get it, right?
Right. I mean, you could look at it as like Lord of the Rings characters.
Yes,
We as the maintenance crews are orcs, and we have the black speak,
yes,
right? And nobody else understands it except for us and our minions. But corporate speaks, the elven tongue.
yeah,
so, so like you have to figure out some way to convert your black speech into the elven tongue, so that somebody at that level can go, "Hey, those gritty mother effers down there could really use this." And while they're all patting themselves in their office, you get what you wanted in the end, anyways.
yes. And so again, with the Elven speak and the Black speech, there has to be a way to, as MVP said, you have to be a way to translate this stuff, right? And how to play it with how other departments or divisions or sections, how they play and understand it. And a common myth with a lot of this is you either be a good person or you can play the office politics. That's 100% myth. There's 100% total way of understanding and speaking towards the environment of the place you're in and still be a good person, right? I think we're very scarred in today's environment. Like, it's either you're a good person or you're a politician, and all politicians are terrible. Maybe, but in as far as like the workplace is concerned, like being someone who's very versed in how the political environment within the workspace works, it just means you're a person who knows how to interact with people, right? Or you're
Well, yeah. So Six and I mentioned this in some of our earliest episodes, and probably periodically over the course of the show, but it's one of those where nobody, you're not in a position where people are going to look and listen to you. So what do? You get it in the ear of somebody who does, and then you let it go, and then watch a month, 2 months, 3 months later, that manager goes out and says, "I have a great idea, everyone," and they go, "Wow, that's it. That is an excellent idea. You played chess right then and there.
yep,
You might not have realized it." You said, "Well, that's not fair. They get all the credit." Yeah, but you knew what it took to win.
yes,
Right? You still knew what was necessary for you to get what you wanted. While they may get the upfront in face, pats on the back, you're the ultimate winner for the results of that decision, and you knew what it took to make that play.
yes. And I'll be the first to admit I freaking suck at chess. Like, I would have to put. I remember when it was like Windows 93 or something like that, when you could actually have chess as a game, like it was a built-in game for your computer. I would have to put it on like the easiest mode possible, and I would still fucking lose. I'm gonna be the first to admit I suck at it. Like, a kid can beat me in chess. That's how sad I am. But what I do appreciate about something like chess and office politics in general is, or actually the physical game of chess. What I like about it the most is it makes you consider what your capabilities are and how you can best employ those, right? Uh, Example is the pawns, man. Like, we've been saying pawns a lot. Like, a lot of people really underestimate the pawns in chess itself. Like, just like whatever, it's just the little wall blockers. They're just there to take the dive and fall on the sword kind of thing for the better part of the game. But for the non chess players out there, like, these little pieces can actually make the moves that can win the game, really. And that's the one thing I've respected the most, I guess, out of chess as far as application anywhere else, is like you gotta consider what your capabilities are, what your gaps are, and how the best way possible to use them. Right?
Right. So you're always looking at well, yours, but you're more importantly your opponent's strengths and weaknesses,
Yes, that's
and
it.
where to exploit and where to capitalize.
there was a exercise. This is reminding me of something as far as like workplace application. It was called SWOT. SWOT, not SWAT like cops SWAT. I mean that's a totally different thing, but
SWOT.
SWOT. It was stand for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and I think it was threats. I think that's what it was. Yeah, I want to say that's what it was.
Is
So
this
like
when you were active duty?
yes, yes.
Okay.
And I want to say like they teach this to business executives too, because they may have called it something different, but that's more or less what I understood it as. So like same thing, straight. What's your strengths? What's your weaknesses? What opportunities can you exploit? And what are potential threats that can eliminate that can counteract your opportunities and your strengths? Basically, like highlight your weaknesses. And if we were to say apply this to like guys on the line, my strength is I am a lead. I have 3 guys who are fully certified, and then my weaknesses I have 11 brand new, never seen an aircraft before, or 11 just fresh off school mechanics. Those guys are technically my weaknesses. They're my strengths, but they could also be a weakness because now I have to allocate extra time to teach these people how to work on the aircraft, work on the line, etc., etc. Opportunities is like if I have like if I have some extra labor that I need to get done, or I have some classes that I have available, that's an opportunity to get these guys going. And then say like a threat would be something like COVID, where we're our our time at work is very limited. Our number of people who can be at work is very limited. People can get sick and be out of pocket for the next 2 weeks or whatever the case may be. That be considered a threat, and that all in line comes in with chess as far as like how to maneuver your strengths and exploit other people's weaknesses. And that's kind of a terrible thing to say, but like like how to take advantage of the gaps to better yourself and the people around you. And that was pretty long winded. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's really well said. Yeah, what you mentioned, like it sounds really negative, right? We keep saying strengths, weaknesses. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are listening to this and going, "Geez, sounds like a bunch of lions on the Serengeti getting ready to tear apart a gazelle." But it's not so. It's not so like harsh, strengths and weaknesses. Uh, your strengths could be, hey, you're very well spoken. You know how to present yourself and project yourself and get your point across without so much prolixity involved. Brevity is your strength. Others might be, hey, I'm not good with words, but I can put together one hell of a presentation and I can give you numbers and facts all day to prove why what I'm presenting is a necessary step in the right direction. Um, it's stuff like that. And on, same thing on the line. You say, if you're the maintenance lead, hey, if you got sheet metal work done, are you going to put the person who spends their entire day doing avionics on sheet metal? No, that would be inefficient. Now, unless you're not crunched for time, which we all know in aviation, we're always crunched for time.
Yes.
But if it's a little slower that day, you might say, hey, Shlomo, go work with Hacksaw over there and learn some sheet metal, and vice versa. You could say, hey, Hacksaw, go pin some cables with Shlomo. But those are the strengths of those individuals, and then conversely, sheet metal is going to be the weakness of Avi, and Avi is going to be the weakness of sheet metal. But you use those as a maintenance lead to capitalize and get your workload done as fast, safe, and efficiently as possible.
Yes.
All to meet your flight schedule, your deadlines, keep your fix rates low, all that kind of stuff. And that's another point, right? So maybe as maintainers, we don't see the data and stuff that's presented to our investors, our senior execs, those dealing with the money. But you as a maintainer are the starting point for your management going to bat for you and fighting for these things. Because people at the corporate levels go, you go, hey, I need new tools. The tools we got are old, they're worn out. We need a new Snap-on box, and it's $50,000 in total, box included, with these specific tools that we need. And upper management's going $50K for some tools. You've been getting by just fine to this point, so why do you need it now? And they're not going to go, well, we could shade, they're not saying that you damn near die every time you plug in a hydro mule, a pack mule into the wall, right? They're not seeing you use vice grips to
Drive a tug.
operate the tug. But what they do see is that, hey, every time I go to use this tug and I have to use vice grips to operate it, and the throttle sticks and this and that while I'm towing a $40 million jet, and I risk damaging this jet, and subsequently we could lose our entire business out of that. That's when they start listening, right? So
Yes.
that's how you can be smarter and playing the chess game as a maintainer and saying, geez, these little things that I deal with every day that could bite me in the ass, and ultimately the whole company, should it go sideways enough. We need to get some attention and throw some funding at this or whatever else. That's how you play the chess game, and you got to present it in numbers wise.
Yes.
It's really risk and opportunity management is what it is. But still part of that chess game.
Yes, very much so. And I love the fact that you mentioned that it's a risk and opportunities management, because that's how anyone above a supervisor's level is going to understand how things work. Like, you can tell them all day long, like, again, with the mechanic grunt speech, they don't understand. They don't get it. They understand you to a point just because you're human, but when you start just saying your grievances, that's all they take it as. It's just a grievance. Like, what does that mean to me?
Yeah, eventually complaining is just heard as complaining.
Yes.
They're not listening to the actual words. All they hear is the tone.
Yes. And we've joked about this like a past couple episodes where we say, like, well, I can get it fixed. It's going to take about 6 months and it's going to cost $400,000. Or I can get it working. It's going to be about 20 minutes for $10. Either way, it's not going to be safe. Like, what?
Right.
When you start throwing those kind of numbers and figures to them, I'm like, oh wait, we can't be down for 6 months. We can't afford $400,000. I'm like, where are these figures coming from? Here, let me show you, friend.
Well, and that's where you, as the maintainer, work with your supervisor or your direct manager, who has a little bit. They have that insight. They're that gap between the floor and the offices, and you say, boss, look, hey, this tug's a piece of shit. We got to use vice grips to operate it. It barely starts when it's cold out. The throttle sticks, the brakes are like somebody's either going to get hurt operating this thing, or we're going to damage a piece of equipment. And
Yes.
and this sucks. This is a multi-billion-dollar company. Blah blah blah. I can't believe we have crap like this. Well, it didn't get to be multi-billion dollars by them spending all their money and making sure that you're using Bugattis as tow tractors.
Right.
They get there by pinching pennies in areas like that. And that's the unfortunate but true side of every business.
Right.
So what your boss has to do and goes, okay, have you priced out what it's going to take to repair this thing? Okay, now let's work together. Let's price out what a new used tow tractor is. Now let's price out what a new tow tractor is. Now let's price out what it's going to cost to repair this $40 million aircraft. Here's all the things that could go wrong if this tug malfunctions and we damage aircraft. Here's what it's going to cost, parts and labor, to fix all this stuff. And then you have to go, okay, also, does our insurance cover that? Oh, it doesn't. Then you also have to look at the egg in the face aspect of it for the company. The owner of that jet's going to tell all his friends, do not go there, because they'll damage your asset just by towing it.
Yes.
So so you got to look at dollar amounts, but then you got to also look at, hey, future loss of business, right? That guy
Yes.
might take his plane elsewhere, and he's going to tell all his friends who own planes to take their jets elsewhere. So it's more than just a dollar amount, but the dollar amount is where you show everybody, look, if we spend $15,000 to $20,000 on a new used tow tractor, we can spend $150 replacing this throttle, trying to fix the brakes. But let's face it, this tug we're using is from the 60s. Or we could spend $20,000 and get this 5 to 10-year-old tug they still make parts for, replacement parts, and it operates just fine. Or we spend $40,000 and get this all electric tug, and then we can get tax write-offs for going green. And we have a really brand new smart piece of equipment we can use. And then you go, but if we choose to not spend $40,000 here or $20,000 here or $150 here, we might spend $500,000 here replacing broken landing gear, airframe inspections for possible damage from jerking and jarring, maybe smacking a wing into a hangar or another aircraft. I'm long-winded here, Six, but those are the kind of things that you as the maintainer are going to have to put together, because the bean counter's at upper level. They're going to go, yeah, you're telling me our tugs are a piece of shit, but we've been operating this long. Give me some data that I can go to the investors and say, okay, here's why I need to spend your money, and here's what it's going to cost. Right?
Yes.
Give me the risk to reward. Oh,
yes, that's it. That's it right there.
The risk reward. Oh, if I spend $20,000, I'm going to save $500,000, prevent $500,000 in damage over here. Now, is that 100% true? Even with a brand new tug, you can still have an incident or mishap, but maybe that's just from driver error or whatever else rather than faulty equipment.
Yes. And that kind of goes into the next myth I was talking about, where you can never escape office politics. It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter what organization you're with. There's always going to be some kind of politics. Pick and choose one. I guarantee we can pick that apart. A church, a nonprofit organization, the current workplace you're working to, the workplace you feel like working to, or if you just decide to be self-employed. Oh, that's 100% politics, because no one gives a flying fuck about you and whatever small business you have. And then you somehow got to play the game where you have to kind of coax people into trusting you. That same old trust is 100% politics. Like, how do I get your buy off, your trust, your vote, your review, whatever? It's 100% the same. Doesn't matter where.
Every business is dependent upon a customer, right? So let's say you got your own restaurant. Somebody comes in and says, "Oh, I found a hair in my food," and I'm upset, and I'm never coming here again. And you're like, "Well, what's the hair?" "Oh, well, it's a bright green curly hair." Now, nobody in the restaurant has bright green curly hair, but the person who's complaining, who purchased the food, does it. And they're not willing to recognize that it's their own hair in the food, but they're bitching and complaining. And you got to approach it and go, "Oh, very sorry to hear that. What can we do to rectify it?" Blah, blah, blah. When deep down, you really want to go, "I don't give," like when they say, "I'm not coming here anymore," I don't give a fuck. Bye.
Yeah,
you can't do that because you're dependent upon the business. So that's the political side of it too, where you want to go, you're like, "Oh, if I was my own business, I'd never put up with this." No, you will. And you'd probably do it more so than you will in your current position, because it's do or die.
Yes.
When it's your ass on the line.
Yes. And it's likewise when on the line. This kind of reminds me of a time, like where the customer will say, like, "I'm never coming on this flight line ever again." Like, bye, motherfucker. Like, thanks for your time. And then it's almost in the exact same scenario where that person will spread words around, regardless if it was their fault or not. It's like, "Oh, these people are terrible. Their service is shitty. They don't give fuel in at ample time. They don't fix my plane or whatever at a decent time," and all this. And that word spreads. And next thing you know, like, when you're trying to hop skip to another place or another organization, your name is somehow blasted in that rumor mill. And next thing you know, like, you're having to beg borrow and steal to prove that you're not a piece of shit, you know?
Well, right. Well, and you're 100% right. So when I was working corporate jets with one of the companies, you worked for a business, but the customers of their aircraft learned you and your name. Yes, you work for an organization, but they learned you personally because they saw you on their asset. They saw your name in their logbooks. And so your career in the corporate realm, especially AOG maintenance, was made on your name. So you were definitely playing the political game and schmoozing and kissing ass. So you would get those personalized call outs. I used to get they would call our my boss who would set us up with the work orders and stuff, and they would call and say, hey, I want MVP out on this. Oh, well, he's off today. Well, when's he coming back on? He'll be back on shift tomorrow. Oh, we'll just wait then. They were willing to let their aircraft sit for another day just to know that I would be touching it. Whereas we had other guys on the crew, and there was a bunch of other guys that were like call outs like that, right? We kind of all had our own owners that liked working with us. Yep. And we had other guys in the crew. They're like, yeah, so and so's on shift today. Hey, you got these 3 on shift? No, they're off shift, but I got these guys. No, it's okay. I'll send one of those guys out. No, do not send one of them to my. You know what I mean? Like they learned that their work was less than adequate, and they weren't willing to do it. They were willing to lose revenue flights to know that their aircraft was going to get fixed right the first time, right? So that's that political game. That's where you set yourself up. People are willing. It's that risk versus reward. People are willing to go, I will lose a $10,000 revenue flight by letting my aircraft sit a day to know that once this person performs the maintenance, I'm guaranteed 10 days of operation until the next scheduled maintenance is due. Because it's hourly. A lot of that stuff's hourly. So, average that out. I'm just saying 10 days, 10 days from now, I'm going to get 10 solid days of flying with no issues until the next scheduled maintenance event.
Right.
Whereas they had some other guys like, it might get off the ground, it might not. I guess we'll roll the dice,
As sad as that is, yes. And that, I think that goes into the question where it's not, is there politics there or not? It's more the question of what kind of politics do they have, right? Is it the one where I have to routinely kiss someone's ass just to get anything moving? Or is it one of those where like I can come in there with a handshake and just
Look
show my work?
Eye, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then let that roll. It's one of those that sometimes you can kind of see how it is from the outside looking in, but other times you have to kind of just dive in or just find someone who's near the edge of where you're at, who's willing to kind of spill the beans about how the environment or the climate is like. It's sad, but that's just how it is. And that kind of goes with chess as well. Like if you notice a lot of professional chess players, they kind of just walk around the tables a bunch of times. Or even with guys who go to casinos, I see this a lot too, where they'll kind of just walk around the tables and see how everything's playing out. What kind of people are there? What's the dealer making motions like? Or what's the average time till someone makes a move? And then you can kind of sort of position yourself like, that's where I want to go, right?
Right, yeah, you're adapting, right? Chess teaches you to adapt. Okay, I got my next 3 moves lined up. Boom, they move the knight over here. Boy, that blew my plan apart. All right, on to the net,
Yes, and that's another one I appreciate about chess too, is creating plans. Like you said, like you're thinking 3, 4, 5 moves ahead. If you're a professional one, I'm sure you can probably think of more, but as far as like applying to yourself as a maintainer, as any type of person within the organization, like if you're not thinking 3 to 4 levels above you, you're only hurting yourself. If you're just thinking about what your environment is and how you're just like this little spheres floating around in space and you just revolve around your work and nothing else, sure, you'll go unnoticed. I mean, no one's going to bother you, but at the same time, no one's going to think of you should any issues happen. Right.
Right.
And that kind of goes into the creating a plan. Like if something goes down or what should I do next? How do I best accomplish this? What happens if this goes wrong, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then just like as MVP mentioned, like you got to learn to adapt because not the one thing I've learned, or one thing MVP and I have learned about plans is you can spend all the time in the world to get it down on paper right, and then 80% of the time it's gonna go wrong.
Oh
Or
yeah. It takes one stone to throw off your one pebble to throw off your whole day. You
yes,
know, you can put all these, like Six said, you can put all this 80 hours into building a solid plan, but you can try to account for every contingency if you can afford it. But then one lone bird strike wrecks you for the whole day or week.
right. Or like
Damn it, you know.
or like say like a missed supply run, or a bad O-ring or some shit can throw the whole thing out of whack.
A parts recall.
Yes. Oh man, I hate those. I hate those with a passion.
I have 15 of these parts, but they just got recalled. So here we are.
Yes. What is it? What is it? For some major companies, they do like a notice of escape. I think it's called.
Notice of escape. Yeah. Yep.
Yep. So like a notice of escape, like, hey, just letting you know these batch of parts are bad, and then you start looking through, like, fuck, there goes my half my supply system. And in most cases, like the average maintainer is not going to realize this, but their leads will, and their supervisors will, because they get those kind of notifications. And then that's when you start hearing stuff like, hey, everyone turn in this tool, everyone look through these parts, make sure they're good, they're not matching these serial numbers or whatever the case may be. Or even more so, like say recalls, they say we need all these aircraft to get grounded so we can inspect all these for XYZ discrepancies. I mean, maybe it not be bad, but just the fact that you have to take it in and exert all those maintenance hours to verify that freaking sucks.
Yeah.
And,
But all accurate and all have happened.
yep. And so like when these come, like you have your whole maintenance plan set up for the month, the week, whatever, and then this thing, something like this drops, and then all of it goes to shit. You know, have guys are on leave, or you have guys who are sick, so you kind of maneuver stuff around to make to address the gaps, and then something like this drops, and now you're like, hey man, how sick are you? Right? Or I know you just went on vacation, but can you cut it short a couple of days or something like that? It's happened to us too, a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, you're talking about the sick one. Like, how sick are you? Well, it's like 30 minutes between throwing up, where I was about every 5 minutes. So I mean, I've been out there on the line changing a part under an engine. I got one bucket for oil and fuel and one bucket for me to throw up in.
Oof.
And that's just the way it goes.
Yep. Yeah, that was the same freight for me. When mine was for food poisoning for once, where like every 30 minutes I have to like go
That's
pee out my ass.
That's what happened with me too. Yeah, it was in a deployed location. Like, I don't know what we all ate, but it hit us all differently. But like the first day, like 2 guys went down. We're like, man, that sucks. The next day, those guys were sort of feeling better. Another guy went down, and like I made it through the whole thing. I was like, wow, I can't believe I came out of this unscathed. And then the last, like when everybody was finally feeling better, boom, gone, gone, dude.
It all broke loose.
Yeah.
So
the damn, like the MREs that had stuffed me up had finally
gave way.
Gave way. Yeah.
So here's another myth that we see a lot is, or most recently, is a lot of people think that because everything is going virtual, that the politics don't exist. I can verify this, or I can confirm this, that that's 100% false. If anything, the politics get stronger because now it's virtual. Like we have to see.
Anybody can play it from anywhere.
Yep. Like
and they're not afraid of getting hit in the face for it.
Yes. Right. Or like I'm not present to defend myself, so they just feel like I automatically agree with you, right? Or whereas you can make some kind of excuse like I can't do this, it's gonna interfere with my commute, or it's gonna interfere with our maintenance plan or what I got going on for the day or some shit like that, right? But when it's virtual, like you have no excuse now, because all it takes is for you to turn your computer on or turn your terminal on, And then you're right then and there, like, oh, son of a bitch.
Yep.
And then, especially with virtual, a lot of people are getting very, let's say, arrogant with the email chain or with the messenger chain. Oh man, I can't. I'm gonna try to bite my lip on that one because a lot of individuals will really try to circumvent a lot of stuff just based off of emails, or they'll try to justify a lot of stuff just based on emails. And
yeah, they like to play that rock paper rank.
yep, and you kind of see that passive aggressiveness in their signature line, right?
Yep.
Like they'll put like some other suffixes besides doctor or whatever. I'm like
MBA, MBP,
yeah,
SIX, PMP, PIMP.
OFM cap or some shit. You know, like,
yeah, and you're like, what?
What is all this? It just sounds like some alphabet soup, like some random code generator. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, like I ran into this recently. I was doing a government property audit. That's what I was doing.
Yep.
And went talking to this one group. Now they don't really work like they're on my program, but they're within a different sector. And I was like, hey guys, I'm here to do this and this and that and the other. And they're like, yeah, we're not doing that. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I was told you guys were already briefed and I'm just coming to ask some questions and validating a few things. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. And our director said so. And basically the director calls me and was like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. You don't work for me. I don't work in your chain. So why don't you go back from whence you came? And that was one of those. And right, playing the game of chess, I know my position. I'm a low level guy. So I go, Roger that. Save me some headache and heartache. Do. Walk back and tell the person who told me to go do that job, said, hey, so and so director over there said pound sand, they're not dealing with it. And this person goes, well, they have to. They're I'm like, well, you can fight that at your level. I know where I'm at, right? So my chess game was going back, and I was the pawn. And I went and told the knight who was going to go tell the queen. Like that's how I played that chess game. Cool. Well, you guys let me know when you get this sorted out. I'll be over here pawning it up.
just staying in my lane.
We don't pawn things over here. Moving straight and or left and right.
Right. I go diagonal
for this guy.
I'll go diagonal once, and that's only just to make a kill, and that's it. Yep. Other than that, I'm lost. I'm blocked. I can't do shit. And so that's another thing too, is that a lot of people think that just because we're social, like we're very chatty or we're very interactive with people, almost extroverted, if I guess that's the word, that being politically intelligent is inherent, right? Like, oh, I know how to talk to people. I understand how politics works. Like that's part of the game, but that's not all of it, right? Just because you come off as popular or you know how to talk or whatnot, it doesn't mean people are willing to buy into your shit, right? Case in point is like, say you have that one mechanic that feels that they know how to get things done, and the only reason why they get things done is because someone else is watching their back, and they get kind of complacent with it and think that they can do all sorts of shit. And then when their backup plan or the person that's actually the source of their success is not there, they get that rude awakening real fast.
Oh yeah.
So it's something that you kind of have to work on. Being aware of it is one thing, but being able to work on it and improve yourself with it is something you got to be conscious and actively trying to improve on. Because just feeling that you know how a certain type of person talks or how a certain person works or how a certain person thinks is not going to be the end all be all for you. It may help quite a bit, but it's not going to guide that through 100% of the time. It's kind of like a game of chess. Again, like you think that because the person you're playing against is 9 years old and you're not, or you're in your high 20s, mid 30s, that you're going to whoop that person's ass. And then you find out like this 9-year-old kid is like a freaking super genius and beats you in like 5 moves, you know?
Right.
but again, that kind of, as far as like say mechanics are concerned, like just because you know the job, you know the tech pubs, you know the procedures, that is just going to automatically win whatever game there is. I can tell you now, or at least MVP and I can tell you now, like just because you have the smarts and you have the book to back you up, it doesn't mean it's going to go right 100% of the time. Case in point is our careers.
Well, that's back to kind of like, sort of about managing your resources. You're a a red hot tech. You got, like Six said, the items, the job in and out, this and that. Well, that's good for certain moves. That's good for certain moves against certain opponents. But eventually, you're going to need another set of moves on your side to punch up at a higher position, right?
Yep.
So when you're playing, you're going to want to manage your resources on the board. I do need these pawns here. Not only do they provide this information, but they can also block this outside party coming over and saying, "Well, you're not following tech pubs." Nope, boom, I am, and here's this guy proving it right here. You're going to want to keep some key players around and not sacrifice them too soon to win the game, because chess is not a sprint. Now, I know there are some grandmasters out there who we've all seen them like on YouTube, and they like 2 plays and they've checkmated. Well, most of us play the long game.
Yes. I'm definitely one of them, because if I try to be aggressive and make the killing move quick, I always find myself on the back end freaking trying to reel back what I just did wrong. Like, no, I'm sorry. Now, is it possible to take advantage and strike while the iron's hot in any given situation? Absolutely, right? But that's only given that you understand the environment you're in, you're aware of your surroundings, you are aware of what you have going and what you have going against you. And then if the best possible move is to strike while it's going good, by all means, but there's a good chance that that's not say baiting you, but that's a good chance that that's not what it seems, and you end up making the wrong decision, and you're actually trying to backpedal to fix whatever you did wrong. Example is like, say you want a one shot of plane back home because you just want to get it up and out of there and get back to doing whatever you were planned to do before that. It sounds like a great idea. I mean, we've made decisions to one shot things back to base or back to home
ferry
station.
Flight them.
Yeah, ferry flight them. But it's one of those risk maneuvers that it can pay off good or it can be terrible, because now like on the way there, something else might have broke or something else might have gotten damaged. So maybe it did land where it's supposed to, or maybe it didn't. And then now you have to answer for all these extra things, even though in your right mind, you felt justified in doing it. And that kind of goes into what MVP was saying about these master chess players, or any kind of master for that matter. Like, it's very beneficial to learn from these people who know how to make these moves, both chess as a whole and career maneuvering or career advancement. That sounds bad. Career maneuvering. That sounds terrible. But advancement in your career is like, find yourself a mentor, find yourself a coach, someone who even knows the things that you're missing. It can be something as low level as just a fellow coworker just calling you on your bullshit. As for mentioned in a previous episode, like, sometimes we just need that individual who just talk shit to us. Like, you're being a little bitch today. Like, what?
Yeah, you're right. I am. Sorry. You
Right.
get better.
Right.
But you also need somebody who's played the game longer than you, right? You need your own grandmaster. Yes, you can have your coworkers and friends and same level employees help you out, but eventually you need to learn from somebody, from a knight. You need to learn from a queen. You need to learn from, what's the other one, a rook? Is that the
The rook's the one that goes up, down, side to side.
Yeah, so you need some of those in your life to learn from. as you progress, so you can add those skills to your toolbox when you're going to fight for your crew, and better equipment or tools or better shifts. You know how to approach it. You can't go in and go, this all sucks and here's why. Nobody's going to listen to you when you can. But if you can go and present it and say, this is not continued, this is not conducive for sustained operations, and here's some factual data to back it up. Interesting. Okay, well, what do you got?
Yes.
That's where those grandmasters who have been playing the game for a lot longer than you. It's kind of like your grandparents' wisdom, right?
Yes.
They've been on the earth a lot longer than you, and it's kind of those learn from our mistakes. Here's what worked and here's what didn't. So don't waste your time and energy on what doesn't.
Yes, absolutely. And that kind of goes into reframing your mindset, right? Like, don't just start thinking of like the chess game or office politics as something as evil, right? Look at it as don't think of it as like I'm sucking up to the boss, because a lot of us have done that, right? They think like someone who's playing the long game is just sucking their way to the top. Some do. Don't get us wrong. Some do.
But some suck start a shotgun too.
that's terrible, but it's true. Like, but is it sucking up, or are you just building your relationships, right, to actually get things moving, right? Sometimes you got to grease the wheel a little extra to get it going.
Yeah. Now you've heard us say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but how much grease are they going to apply before they cut the wheel off?
Yes. Or just replace it altogether. I mean?
So you can't just be squeaky all the time, because eventually they're going to go, well, no amount of grease has fixed it, so let's amputate.
Right. Let's just replace
a new wheel. Let's replace it.
Yeah. and so that's one solid thing you can do besides finding a grandmaster. First, you got to find one, right? But the only way to find one is just to expand your awareness and expand your influence. By influence, I mean like being able to help someone when they need it, being the most reliable person on the line, being that one person that people want to hire for a job, or like as MVP said, like, I will sacrifice a flight so that this person can work on my plane. That's all part of influence.
You definitely want that. You definitely want to be that person. I promise you.
And then
I promise you, you want to be the one people are willing to scrub money just to have you put your hands on their asset. That sounded super dirty, but political corporate chess.
Yes. And then you got to evaluate your style against what's the environment playing, right? You don't try, like you were saying with the chess thing, you don't go full speed right off the bat unless you know what you're doing, right? And so evaluate your style. Like, are you the kind of person who likes to challenge others? You like to dissent, and you want to know the why behind the why before you act on something, or you just kind of like by principle accept things the way they are, right? You got to see where you fit into the environment and how you can best help that. We call this from the managerial level up is value added, right? Where's your value added? Like, are you
and know this, right? Something Six just said kind of jogged this in my memory. When he says, where do you fit? Are you the one who wants to know the why, or do you accept things for what it is? Maybe you think you lean more towards the why, but you keep getting told to because I said so. So you turn into the accepts it for what it is. Know that you are sacrificing some pawns in this game of chess. Like, you're not getting out keeping every piece. It's not happening.
Right. Absolutely.
So sometimes when your boss says do this and you go, why? That doesn't make sense. I have some questions and suggestions. And they go, shut up and color. Let it burn. Sacrifice that pawn. Be a good soldier, and it does what it's told. And when it blows up in their face and they go, man, I took this to the meeting. This was crap, and I got shit all over by the executives. Oh, wow, that's crazy. Anyways,
Yeah, yes. And this was a big one that we've kind of learned throughout our careers is relationship currency. What that means is, like, if if you build your relationships with people, with your teammates, your coworkers, other section mates, other division mates, people within your organization, if you build a good relationship with them and they know that the stuff that you bring to the table, regardless of what it is, you know it's going to be good quality work ethic or whichever the case may be, like they can trust you, then you have some good relationship currency. And then you can use that to buy your way through a lot of stuff. Like if you need a favor to ask for a certain supply search, or if you need someone to pull in some extra time to help get this flight off the ground, whatever the case may be, if they have that relationship currency with you, they're willing to spend it on you, or you're able to spend it on them to get things rolling. And the only way to do that is to have an understanding of the political environment you're in your workplace, and how to grow that influence. And then again with the chess game, like you sometimes you gotta bring the knight out and make some quirky moves to get things positioned the way you need it to be. But they're willing to do it for you because you have that built up with you. And um I think we've said this throughout the episode again, is you gotta constantly improve your your awareness with this all. Some call it savvy, some call it political intelligence, whatever the case, whatever you guys want to call it. You gotta continuously improve this. It's kind of like working a muscle. Like once you let it go, and trust us, we've let go a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you got to know which mountain's worth dying on. You can't die on every molehill.
Yes, or every anthill, as we say, like this the anthill you're gonna die on.
Yeah, is the anthill you're choosing to die on? Man, it's smaller than the one you chose yesterday, but okay, that's where So that's how some people are though. Like every issue is a big issue to them.
Yes,
and maybe it is to them, but that's just the level they're at.
Right.
But you got to know what's worth letting go, what's worth sacrificing for the bigger picture, for the larger goal.
Yes, and again, like understanding understanding where you fit, and understanding what's your current strength and what's your current weakness, and just know that you got to constantly evolve with this, because like all things, your workspace environment is gonna constantly shift. It's gonna constantly change. It's gonna go get better. It's gonna get worse. It's this huge wave of stuff that's just gonna keep on coming, and when you can choose to go with the wave, or you can choose to fight against it. Whichever case, you got to understand, like you can't just sit by and let it happen. Or maybe you can, and that's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. But just know, like you're gonna constantly keep getting hit by that wave, and over time, the rock's gonna erode away, and then you're just gonna get washed away with the tide. So, a little info on that. This kind of hints towards the corporate side of stuff, which we're now accustomed and exposed with. This is the same type of stuff that these senior executives or stakeholders play around with. And it sounds terrible, but that's really how the scheme is, or how the way things work is. They shift things around, they pawn things up. It can be disputes over a contract. It can be disputes over who gets what funding. And sometimes, like as MVP said, you gotta let the soldier die, or let the pawn get sacrificed.
It's give and take, and it's compromise, right? And at those upper levels, if you're a pawn like I am, sometimes you're at the whim of the king and queen on the chessboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just because you're a pawn doesn't mean you can't make killing moves.
Yes.
So you just got to be smart about what that killing move is. You can't try to hold your ground on everything. Like let stuff burn and be the phoenix and rise out of those ashes, and
yes,
and come back stronger.
Yes, and then building all this up actually will help you in your career wise, whether you decide to move up, you decide to move side to side. Having that political intelligence or that office intelligence can really assist in you progressing upwards, or you trying to transition to something else, because now you have something to back you up. And that's again its own chess maneuver. That's something that we are constantly evolving with ourselves, or learning how to do ourselves, because Sometimes, you're just going to run into something that's totally outside of your norm, totally outside of your planning, something you've never seen before. And then you just might get that one person who knows how to one shot you in one.
Yeah, and you can use these chess moves not only for your brag sheet, right? When it comes to your end of year reviews, what did you do this year? Well, I used my political savvy to get a new tug for the shop, and here's how I did it. Oh wow! So as you're that okay, well here's X Y Z percent merit increase, or you're interviewing for another job. What's one accomplishment you've had in the past year? Oh well, I presented a risk and opportunity management slide deck to the program leadership, and enveloping risk to reward versus not replacing this tug, and here's what could happen, or we replace the tug and this doesn't happen, and ultimately we were able to get a new tug, right? And that shows that hiring manager goes, wow, this person's got some savvy, especially if you're trying to go for an executive position or whatever. They're going to go, okay, you've got some experience in this realm, you're what I'm looking for.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that, because this just rang a bell in my head. Like, if you're trying to go for a C-suite position, like senior executive, president, vice president, director, whichever the case, that's actually one of the key markers that they look for is, can you build relationships, and then do you have a trusted network of professionals that you can create? It sounds very political. It sounds very vague. But what that really means is, like, can people trust you, and can you network with people to build a circle of trust and a system of relationships where you can get things done, and it helps move things in the right direction. That's
exactly right, because as you're under the microscope for consideration for an upper level position, your past work is viewed, and they're going to go. And if you've built a solid team that was able to shake the foundations of the organization in a positive way, they're going to go, this person definitely knows what it takes to build a team. They might not be the subject matter expert, but they know how to pull in each body who is.
Yes.
And that's definitely key for leadership. Not even at the executive level. Again, that's back down on the hangar floor and flight line. You can have the worst leadership above you in the world, but you might have the best maintenance crew ever, just because you recognize the strengths and weaknesses of each of your teammates, and you capitalize on those strengths, and seek to to build up the weaknesses to where they're not so much of a weakness anymore.
Yes, that's exactly it. And that's the lowest level of politics there is, because every team is going to have their wants and abrasions with everybody. No one's going to 100% agree with everything. And it may be like real small arguments or real small differences, but they're there. And if you let it go enough, it's going to keep on building. So that's another example of, like, being office politics savvy, to have these individuals, whether they're the same or not, cohere together and get the job accomplished. It could be a 2-person team, 3-person team, or it can be a whole section of 12 to 25, whichever the case, whatever the scale, it applies regardless. And there's no escape. There really isn't. And the maneuvering of it all, chess wise or chess illustration wise, is all, as MVP says, like, this is how you move up. This is how you get the job done. This is how you get recognized and come up for awards and stuff like that. And as sad as this may be to some people, that's how things work. And that's how you are able, and in becoming aware of this is probably going to be your first great step in accomplishing more of your potential than just someone discovering you by sheer luck or accident. It's very rare that happens. Like, very rare. Like, sometimes, like, you can almost go your entire career and no one will know you're a badass until someone decides to be your advocate for this and talk you up the chain. Any final thoughts or anything else you'd like to add, MVP?
So my final thought is, if you think you're a chess master in the workplace, you're not, but you could be better than others. And just when you think you're a grand master, guess what? Now there's speed chess. Okay, well, now you've gotten better at streamlining your checkmates. Cool. You may have seen a thing called 3D chess, 3-dimensional chess. Good luck to you, because now you're playing chess on different planes and different levels for the same game. So be mindful of your limits.
Yes, exactly. My final thoughts on this is just know that it exists everywhere. There's no escape, and the best option for you is to understand where you fit and how best to utilize what you have using those same chess-like skills to improve yourself and to get your team across to get the job done, whatever that goal or job may be. Like it's definitely going to help you in the long run. The sooner you realize it, the sooner you learn to master it yourself, the better things are going to be, the more streamlined your job's going to be, whether you decide to remain in place or you decide to move side to side, up or down. It's totally beneficial, and it's something that we are constantly learning to evolve with ourselves, because the environment we're in constantly changes. Constantly. I mean, the uppermost pyramid echelon group of it may change once every 10,000 years or some shit, but the stuff that directly affects us, it's constantly evolving, it's constantly moving. So understanding where you fit in it and how to orient yourself to the effect where you can have a positive influence is something we continually need to work on. But tell us what you think. Like, are we talking out of our ass? Or do you feel is there something more that we need to address? Or do you have some tips and tricks that you might know in your master's level awareness of your chess game or your office politics? Like, let us know in the comments. Let us know on our social medias, or email us in our on our website and tell us what you guys think. What are your thoughts? What are your concerns in all of this? Or if you need some help in understanding more of this, we're more than able to help. Again, just reach out to us, or you can join us on our private Discord, and we can maneuver this any way, shape, or form to help best fit you. And just know, like, we're slowly starting to offer more coaching opportunities or not coaching opportunities. We're like starting to offer more coaching. We're starting to offer more coaching to you, so we can help you get your career to the way you want it to, or at the very least, like, we can help you improve the ideas and methods that you have already, and maybe point you into the right direction to get you some ones that may help you in the future. Once again, just hit us up on our social medias, join our Discord, or send us an email from our website at cancelformaintenance.com. And on that note, thanks again, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you all again next time.
Bye, everybody.
We would like to take this time to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to make episodes, maintain our gear, and create merch for all of our listeners. With special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Eric Shaw, Dan Schubert, Ryan Frushauer, Kyle Keir, Mike Sherwood, Caleb Stockhill, and Jennifer Brofer. Thank you all so much for your support and patronage. If you like our show, please support us on Patreon. You'll receive awesome perks like access to our private Discord, discounts and early access to our merch, first glimpse of our comics and other projects, and so much more. You can further support us and show off your prowess as an aircraft specialist by visiting our shop at cancelformaintenance.com. If you like classy or rugged watches, visit our affiliate Rockwell Time at rockwelltime.com. Use the code CX, the number 4MX, to save 10% off your total order. If you have suggestions for the show, or you'd like to be a guest on the show, send us a line on our contact us section at cancelformaintenance.com, and we'll do what we can to get both your ideas and yourself on the show. Please support us on social media like Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, Instagram at CANX for Maintenance Podcast, or Twitter at CXMX Podcast. Please check out our new comic series on the Tapas app. Like, share, subscribe, and comment on our comics. Let us know what you think. Thank you all so much for your support and listenership, and we will catch you all next time.